Gareth, during our videos, we've spoken a lot about the importance of planning. That won't be any mystery to most people here, but also planning the plan and also giving enough time for the plan to be discussed thoroughly towards the end of the meeting. However, despite all these good efforts and good practices, we still sometimes end up with the person to whom we're speaking having a different understanding of what that plan should be. Talk to us about that, and then some tips on how we can really address that so it doesn't happen as often.
Yeah, very, very common issue, and of course it's always worth remembering, of course, that we as human beings, we all place different meanings on exactly the same words. So just clarifying what people really mean is an important thing. I think there's a big thing also about, we've mentioned before, emailing the plan later, so that therefore the nuances of our communication may not be fully understood. And this topic reminds me very much, I was doing some work once with a company that sold life insurance, and it was very interesting because one of the biggest issues, in fact, one of the biggest complaints to the regulator was, later on, people had a completely misunderstood what it was they were actually buying. So they thought they were buying medical insurance or illness cover or whatever it might be. And one of the things that we started to work on was that we put something into the process, which was the salesperson would ask the customer in their own words to just talk about what it is they think they're buying, i.e. what it is they think they're agreeing to. And it's very interesting. That gave you therefore a chance to just course correct, check understanding. And of course, what you're effectively doing there is getting two human beings to just clarify as best you possibly can what it is you actually have agreed to. And I think that's a principle that we can also take into many other customer environments, particularly at the end of the meeting when you're getting that planning function, that planning structure in place, which is getting your customers or any other stakeholders, could be an internal meeting as well, just to repeat back the things that they've agreed to do and the things that from their own words that they've agreed to to articulate it within their own business. Therefore, you're much more likely to be able to, again, just check understanding and course correct.
So, Gareth, I love the idea in principle, and it makes perfect sense to get somebody to validate what they think you said or they think you've agreed. It sounds a bit patronizing to me, and there's a risk of really turning somebody off around that. How do you position it and then do it so that it is, gratefully received, if you will, and a really positive experience?
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's also something about, framing it up, which is, words along the lines of, look, just so that we're clear or so that there's no misunderstanding, just from your own perspective, what are the key things that, from your perspective, you agreed to do? And then articulate that from your perspective as well. That also gives them check their understanding of, what you have agreed to do. So there's almost like a two-way thing there, which I think, again, about human beings, they're just, you check it with each other just to make sure. Let's not also forget that if you do it and therefore you minimize misunderstanding, from a customer perspective, you're also minimizing the chances of things going wrong or having to have another meeting, etc. Those types of things that break relationships and get frustration into a situation with a customer where we're having to go through it again. So what you're actually doing there is minimizing the opportunity for errors to happen.
So it sounds like to me that the positioning of it, the framing of it is really critical, but then the joint nature of that also big part of making sure that that's not something which is, that is something that is reviewed very, very positively in terms of the mutual understanding of the agreement.
Totally, yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Gareth.